Hello and welcome back to In the Corner. I'm Cash, episode 42. We've got such a good episode ahead of us. We got some news. We've got a few good fights that went down this weekend. Ben Whittaker stopped Liam Cameron in round two. It was controversial again, just like the first fight. Maybe not as controversial, but there was the way it ended was still a little bit iffy with that stoppage. We're gonna talk about Dalton Smith and his not so exciting fight with Mathieu Germain. We're going to talk about Gabriela Fundora looking sensational against Marilyn Badia. We're going to talk about PFL, all that stuff that went down this week. And we're actually going to start with some news. We had two pay-per-view cards announced. Not just the fight, but the pay-per-views, the whole card. Let's start with June 28th. Jake Paul, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. will fight at the Honda Center in Anaheim, California, over 10 rounds at cruiserweight. And let me say this. At first, we knew that this fight was happening. That's what we were hearing. We've been hearing for a long time that, this fight has been discussed and talked about and kind of set up. And for a while, it seemed like this was maybe going to be for the WBA regular title. This would be a world championship. It wouldn't be like the main WBA title, but it would be recognized as a world championship. If Jake Paul would win this, he would be a world champion. Luckily, that is not happening, at least not right now. There's no title attached to it at the moment. I expect that the WBA may at least put some kind of BS title, like international championship or whatever, which I'm not opposed to. I'm really not opposed to Jake Paul maybe fighting for for a secondary regional title. If he fights for a world title, at least not right now, I don't think it makes any sense. I'd love to see something crazy like that happen. But let me say this. The Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. fight, I don't hate it. I see some people complaining, it's another, it's straight up, he's an older, he's not retired, but he's an older boxer way past his prime, has not naturally fought it that way, but you also have to remember that these guys cut down so much weight. This is probably around his natural walk-around weight. He's also a lot older than he was when he was fighting at middleweight. So I do think that him and Jake are going to end up being around the same size. I bet Jake will still probably be a little bit bigger, but the size thing, I don't think there's a huge issue with in this fight. I think that there is a little bit of an issue with, just like their primes and stuff. Julio Cesar Chavez is not in his prime, but I'll say this on paper should be Jake Paul's toughest test. It should be. I think that I don't know if it will be. I think that Tommy Fury, of course, was probably, okay, toughest test outside of Tommy Fury. But take Tommy Fury out of the equation, looking at guys like Anderson Silva, Tyron Woodley, those guys may end up being tougher fights just because of where Jake was at in his career. Because at that point he was taking on former UFC champions that were past their prime in boxing, when he was bigger than them, sure, but he was a lot less experienced then than he is now. Where I think that now, if the Jake Paul back then fought the Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. back then, like 3 years ago, I think it would have been a much different fight. But Anderson Silva already beat Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. I think that Jake Paul's going to win this fight, but I think that it's a legitimate challenge for him. It's not going to be as one-sided as the past, as all of Jake's fights have been since the Tommy Fury defeat. I don't think that Jake has taken easy fights. I think that when he did the Nate Diaz one, I thought that was a compelling fight at the time, coming off a loss. We didn't know what that was going to be like. Jake won that pretty handily, and then the two fights with the pro boxers and stuff, at least going into the first one, we thought this could be a tough test. That one wasn't. Second one wasn't either. The Mike Perry fight had some intrigue, and I think that the fight was a lot of fun, but Jake again, won that one handily. And the Mike Tyson one, we all kind of expected what was going to happen, but there was still that question, does Mike Tyson still have that power? And I think that he may have had a little bit of it, but not really. It was it was kind of hard to watch. But anyways, I do think this will probably end up being Jake's toughest fight since Tommy Fury, where he's going to get really challenged. Because you remember those Anderson Silva and Tyron Woodley fights, Jake had to work for them. And those were not one-sided fights. Jake definitely won those fights, but they were not one-sided, and I kind of expect the same thing here. I expect Jake to win this in probably a 6-4, 7-3 fashion. I mean, it's so far away from the fight, I don't know, but I'm really not mad at this fight. I think it's a decent step up. I did see some people talking about how, just a few months ago, Jake was talking about, I don't need to fight for that. I don't need to fight for a BS title. And he's not fighting for a BS title, but, he is taking this fight. But also you have to remember that at that time, they were in negotiations with Canelo, Gervonta Davis, Anthony Joshua. None of those fights are happening right now. So I think this makes a lot more sense for, where they're at right now. Co-main event there, very surprising, is going to be Zurdo Ramirez versus Yurniel Dorticos. I think I said that right. We've been hearing this fight is going to go down on June 28th for the past few months. And, we heard last week, oh, it's going down. It's been signed and stuff. Assume this would be on a Golden Boy card. It's on an MVP X Golden Boy card. It'll be on DAZN pay-per-view. We don't know yet the specific details. We don't know if it's going to be, what the rest of the undercard is going to look like. It seems like it may be actually a hybrid, which is what you rarely see. I think this is more an MVP production. But, I think this is a great co-main event, and it's going to help Jake sell a lot more tickets. I think that Jake is very famous, but I don't know how much of a core fan base he really has that'll, follow him everywhere and sell a lot of tickets. Most of the fights he goes to, he's not the crowd favorite when he has, the big name opponent, just because a lot of people don't like him. So having Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. and Zepeda Ramirez on the bill is going to help save a lot of tickets. I did see somebody suggest seeing Lucas Body versus Floyd Schofield on the undercard. I would love that so much. That's a brilliant fight. That could be a WBA eliminator even. But outside of that, I think Zurdo Ortiz is good. We get it out of the way. And I already saw Oscar De La Hoya answer a question. He said that they haven't discussed Jake Paul Zurdo Ramirez, but I guarantee you, these two, same division, same card, both likely to win their fights, somebody's going to pose the question. And somebody's going to say, is it Jake Paul versus Zurdo next? Would y'all take that? Because, I think Zurdo said in the past he's open to doing that. He's open to letting Jake fight for his title. So we'll see what happens. It's just what a crazy world. But I'm excited for that event. Now, an event I'm very excited for. This was also announced, the Ring Magazine 3. So this is going to be the third Ring Magazine card. The first, of course, being Eubank Ben. The second one being Garcia Romero in Times Square. Canelo Skull is going to be counted as a Riyadh season event. It's kind of confusing, but they refer to this as Ring Magazine 3. We already heard last week that Shakur Stevenson, William Zepeda was ready to go for July 12th in New York City. We now find out the rest of that card. So we're going to have Edgar Berlanga versus Hamzah Sheeraz as a WBC super middleweight title eliminator. Fantastic fight. I love that fight so much. We heard about Berlanga Sheeraz being a possibility for a 5v5 in the future. This is such a good fight. I think it's going to be sick. Two power punchers. Sheeraz coming up to the division. Berlanga doesn't really have a dance partner right now. They both need a fight like this. This is not going to go the distance. I mean, what a fantastic fight. This honestly may be a tougher challenge for, at least on paper, for Sheeraz than the Adames one. And I mean, this is definitely Berlanga's toughest test outside of Canelo. It's just such a good fight. And then below that, you have Alberto Puello defending his WBC world title versus Subriel Matias, totally out of nowhere, but a very interesting fight. Puello, a very good puncher, a very good boxer and puncher and stuff. Not the biggest puncher, but you know what I mean. And then you've got Subriel Matias, who is one of the most feared guys in that division. Sure, if he doesn't stop you, you'll probably beat him. He has been the distance twice and he's lost 2 decisions. But he has a very much the possibility to stop you. Every single time he's won a fight, it's been by knockout. So I think that this is a very intriguing fight. This is a fight that Matias can win by knockout, but there's also a fight very much that Puello can outbox Matias the same way that Liam Paro did. I bet that Alberto Puello probably is the better boxer, skill for skill than Liam Paro. It's a very intriguing fight at 140. We know we were supposed to get Alberto Puello, Dalton Smith, which we'll talk about in a minute. This was announced that same day that Dalton Smith had that fight. Dalton Smith is going to have to wait until after this one, which, he just went 12 rounds, wait until July, and then no matter what, he's going to fight the winner of that fight. Awesome world title fight. And then, opening up the card, you're going to have David Morrell versus Imam Kataev. Imam Kataev had a fight announced for June 5th not too long ago. That's not happening anymore. No. The Tigers are going to be now, we're taking this opportunity, as they should. I mean, throwing him in with David Morrell is scary. I think David Morrell wins that fight right now, but Imam Kataev is very, very good. He has a very bright future. One of those guys you have to think would be a future world champion, both top 10 in the Ring Magazine. Terrific fight. I mean, you're going to have David Morrell opening up that card, and it's going to be against a good opponent. Man, Kataev is stepping up big time. So, unbelievable card. Honestly, that is it's not as good as the last Crescendo, but it's up there. It is 4 genuine 50-50 fights. I can't wait for that one. We don't know where it's going to be in New York City. I did see that the MSG, the theater at MSG, Barclays Center are all booked on July 12th. It's going to be the day after Taylor Serrano 3, so 2 massive cards in the same city. Potentially Alexander Usyk, Daniel Dubois 2 on the same day at Wembley Stadium. We're hearing that's not a Turkey card and just a Queensberry card. It's going to be another phenomenal weekend of boxing like we have coming up at the 1st of May. But, man, this is going to be awesome. We don't know where it's going to be. We do know that Turkey's going to do another iconic New York City location soon. This could end up being where this fight takes place, something like Ellis Island maybe. I don't really know, but man, yeah, we got some good cards cooking up this summer. Let's talk about what happened today. Ben Whittaker, Liam Cameron 2, very, very important fight. Biggest fight of the weekend. Everyone was talking about it. And, such an odd occurrence last time where they topple over the ropes. Ben supposedly gets injured, and then, he's out on a wheelchair when he was starting to kind of lose the fight, and it's just so many question marks. And he had a lot of pressure, and I saw he was very emotional after the win. Talk about that too. But, he looked great. I thought that he was much more aggressive this time out. Started early, really, got to it really quickly and was just showing the levels. And then in that second round, he got to Liam Cameron. He hurt him. He was about to go down. He was wobbled. He was rocked. He was stunned. He was going to go down. But the ref stepped in before then. And it's weird because I don't think that this was the worst stoppage in the world. I'm not shouting horrendous stoppage. Liam Cameron was winning. He wasn't even hurt. He was hurt. And in certain fights, you can say that's a fair stoppage. But the fact that Liam Cameron hadn't gone down yet at that point, and mainly because of how controversial the last fight was. And I know the ref shouldn't factor in, we got to make sure this time. He shouldn't be thinking about that. But just to see how close the first one was and how so weird it ended last time. We didn't get a good result. And then this time, just for it to end a little bit too early. One knockdown too early is a little bit, oh man, that sucks. Like, I even the commentators were saying, I think one of them said, I wouldn't mind seeing it again, talking about a trilogy. I don't think we need that. I think Ben Whittaker showed he was hurting Liam Cameron. He was going to stop him in that round. It was just a little bit too early where you let him go for a little bit longer and we don't have this controversy and we're shouting Ben Whittaker is, the best of the best again. I still think he's awesome. He didn't showboat, but he didn't really have a lot of time. He did have some good moments in there. I thought that he looked phenomenal. He's just like, that ending sucked. And then, of course, he goes over to the corner. He gets in the guy's face, jumps through the ropes. Cameron's coach actually leaned up and tried to slap him. I get it. Emotions were high. I do know that Ben Whittaker's been put through the ringer by the media and the boxing community and everyone these past few months, and I get it. And I know that Liam Cameron and his team have not been the nicest to him, but this is the fight game. Granted, it's also the fight game. He's allowed to do that stuff. I thought that it was pretty messed up, and I liked how Andy Lee, who's always cool, calm, and collected, went over to apologize. Liam Cameron didn't seem too upset about the stoppage, so that's why I think it's okay. He wasn't, this is horrendous and stuff. He was kind of smiling. I think that he was done. Terrific performance from Ben Whittaker. Just didn't end the right way. As for what's next, I really don't know. When asked who he wants next, he said he wanted 5 guys. I think that he's not quite ready for the world title level. I think that's clear. And there's nothing bad about that. This was only his 10th pro fight. He needs a little bit more development, but I think that he's ready for those top-level domestic fights. Joshua Buatsi don't need that yet. Joshua Buatsi should be fighting the winner of Lyndon Arthur, Anthony Yard 3 coming up next weekend. I'd like to see, I saw somebody suggest it, Willie Hutchinson. Not only would it be super funny, like great build-up, but it'd be a really good fight. And even going down a level from Willie Hutchinson, Zach Parker. Ben Whittaker will beat Zach Parker now. He had a horrendous performance. He was supposed to fight Willie Hutchinson. Willie Hutchinson gets injured during fight week. They bring in someone else, and Zach Parker just looks awful. Ben Whittaker destroys Zach Parker, and that's a good competitive fight. I think it's Queensberry versus Boxer. I would love to see that one made next. I think that makes a lot of sense, but Ben Whittaker is a star. He's one of the best prospects, or I don't even know if you can even call him that anymore, contenders in British boxing. The light heavyweight division at 175 is incredible in the UK. So many good fights to be made, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in main events only, at least for a while, or if not big cards. But the future is very bright for him. Moving on from there, co-main event, Sam Eggington upset Lee Cutler. That was very surprising. I thought that he fought really well, and it does kind of suck because obviously he gets headbutt in the second round. After the 8th round, the corner and the doctor say, it doesn't look great. We're going to call it. Go to technical decision. And Sam Eggington gets the cards. One of them had him winning every round. Don't like that. I had it 87-85, as did the other 2 judges. I thought that he was throwing more and landing more bigger shots than Cutler was. Cutler just wasn't active enough. And, the tide was starting to turn a little bit. I thought Eggington was still having plenty of success in that 7th and 8th round, but he was definitely tiring. And I think that Cutler was on the way to winning those last 2 rounds and potentially getting a draw or even a win. So it does suck for him, but that is the fight game, and he didn't do good enough in the early rounds. And I thought Eggington looked great in those early rounds and showed he's still there. He's still got stuff. He's got a pro title with him now, a WBC International Silver title at 154. So he's there, man. I mean, we saw Keeman Agyarko fight yesterday. That's a fight at 154 to make. Ishmael Davis is still there. Honestly, Ryan Kelly and Sam Eggington, two guys that have got a lot of losses but would put on a terrific fight together. I have no objections to that. So we'll see what happens next with him. Fraser Clark returned on that card as well. I thought that he looked phenomenal. He did exactly what he was supposed to with a guy like Ebenezer Tete. Put him out in one round, and the best part of that was Tete going after the the ref. I thought that was a very fair stoppage from the referee, and Tete grabs him. I mean, this guy is always doing something crazy whenever he's in the ring. It's just such a weird and funny character. But yeah, I'm happy for Fraser Clark. Again, he's another guy that's had a tough last few months. Wasn't necessarily bullied, I guess you could say, like Whittaker was, but had that big dent in his head from the huge knockout, and is now back in the scene and looking for that British title. He did say he wants to stay active because it's going to be a while before the winner of the Adelaide and TKV rematch is done, is ready to go. I did see Ben Shalom say that that's likely for June. We're hearing that could be on Wardley versus Miller, which is crazy turnaround for TKV after getting knocked out just 2 months before that. But anyways, it's going to be a while. So I say that you get a similar opponent to Tete, maybe a little bit of a step up, someone that is a good name but is very much beatable for Fraser Clark before he gets that British title fight. And I think that that's a great route for Boxer to take with him. And then opening of the main card, you had Tyler Denny and Elvis Ahorga. Decent fight, kind of enjoyable. Tyler Denny looked pretty good. He's not the most exciting fighter in the world. I think he's now 20-3 with only one knockout. But, he did what he had to do in there. He outboxed Elvis. And, I mean, that one, again, seems very clear. Kieran Conway, Jerome Warburton fight for the British middleweight title on May 17th. He should be in with the winner. He should be fighting for the British. He's a former European champion. I really think that's a great next step for him. And, yeah, there's some good fights on that card today. Elliot Whale had a really tough but a good win against Lucas Balingal, I believe it was. Oh, Troy Coleman, Bradley Goldsmith. So Goldsmith was winning that fight, right? Won almost every round, was just honestly kind of dominating Coleman. End of the 6th round, Coleman hurts him, pretty much drops him right when the bell is ringing. I think that 100% should have been called a knockdown. It wasn't, but it doesn't matter. Coleman gets on him right at the start of the next round and puts him out. It sucks for Goldsmith because he was so far ahead, but tremendous comeback for Troy Coleman. That was really impressive. And then also Mark Jeffers opened up the card with a first-round stoppage over Ricardo Lara. Very weird fight. I don't know why he was fighting a journeyman. We did see Ben Shalom. I saw on Twitter he said that he's getting married, or like he was at a wedding last week or next week, and has a big fight in June. They did announce he'll be back June 7th at Oakwell. He is targeting Callum Simpson, which I think is a great fight for them to make. And, they wanted a little run out to keep him active, which I guess, yeah, but I just hope that on June 7th they have an actual big opponent for him and not another journeyman. Let's move on over to Sheffield, England. And I also do want to say that Dalton Smith was able to move from Sheffield to Birmingham in just, I guess 24 hours. He was in Liam Cameron's corner, just right around 24 hours after being Mathieu Germain over a very boring 12 rounds. It was very frustrating because, listen, I don't say a lot, oh, he's running away, that's so boring. I don't do it a lot. I don't complain about that because I do enjoy those kind of boxers a lot. This was running. He was barely throwing. He was barely landing anything. He was simply on survival mode, and it sucked to watch. I don't want to see Mathieu Germain in a high-profile fight like this again. This was meant to be just a run out for Dalton Smith to get a good knockout, stay active, look good. And, on one hand, he does get the rounds in, and it's not bad that he did, now knowing that Alberto Puello's fighting in July, so he's going to have to wait until at least, October to get that fight. So it's not, the worst thing in the world that this happened, but it was just so frustrating to watch. I mean, the final scorecard ended up being 119-105, and that 119 is just because Dalton Smith had a point deducted. I think it was for hitting low. So he won every round and dropped Germain 3 times. I mean, Germain's tough, I guess, but yeah, that just really sucked to watch. Co-main event was Josh Warrington versus Asif Khan. Dominated that fight as everyone expected him to. Looked decent, I guess. I don't think that he's going to be fighting for a world title ever again, but the Michael Conlan fight makes a lot of sense. Conlan's going to fight for the European next, and then I guess Warrington will just sit out and wait until then. I'm not sure, but I think that's a good fight for both, and then they just retire. I thought Josh Padley looked really good. This was a test because you had Marko Svitanovic, who, was undefeated, and it was clear he's kind of similar to Edgar Berlanga's opponent, where undefeated doesn't mean you're good. It just means you haven't fought anyone good yet. And we kind of saw that. I thought that Josh Padley, this was a big test for Matchroom. They signed him, and they've never seen him as the favorite. They don't know how good he really is. He looked great in the Mark Chamberlain fight. Just held his own versus Shakur, but this is his first time being the A-side, with a big promotion. How is he going to handle it? We're going to give him a good fight. We're going to give him a title on the line. And I thought he looked very good. He dominated the fight, and then he stopped his guy in the fifth, which I wasn't expecting. Pelly's not a big puncher if you look at his record, but I thought that he looked phenomenal. They're talking about him moving down to 130, which wouldn't be the worst idea. He is definitely a smaller guy at lightweight, so yeah, I mean, what a story for him, and he's actually quite a decent fighter, so I'm really excited to see where his career goes. And then, of course, you had a very good fight opening up the main card between, like I mentioned, Aguiarco and Ryan Kelly. I thought Aguiarco looked pretty good. It was one of those fights where it really could have gone either way, but I do think Aguiarco deserved the decision. Kelly had some good rounds early on, and then it was just that middle to late where Aguiarco kind of just took over the fight. I had him winning 96-94, so still very competitive, but those last, I think it was 3 rounds in a row, I gave all of them to Aguiarco. He looked good. I think that he's ready to get in there with a guy like Ishmael Davis or, as we mentioned, Sam Eggington. There's good fights for him. And yeah, it was awesome. And there's still good fights for Ryan Kelly. He was very competitive there. There's 2 competitive defeats in a row. Yeah, some good fights in the British super welterweight division to be made. Giorgio Vizioli looked great. He stopped Kane Baker in 4 rounds, a famous British journeyman, and probably sent him back into retirement. I think Vizioli is so good. He's already fighting in 8-rounders, and it seems like they want to get him fighting for a title by the end of the year. Don't mind that at all. He's really, really good, and he's 7-0 with 6 knockouts now. Very impressive. Lily Buddy Jug had a good one as well. Actually, a stoppage over Grant Dennis, which I wasn't expecting. Buddy Jug is not the biggest puncher, but yeah, a 5th-round KO for him, so very nice. Okay, moving over to Oceanside, California, with the undisputed flyweight champion of the world, Gabriela Fundora. And I say this is rare that I'll say this. That was genuinely a flawless performance. There's not one thing that she could have done better. She was in there with someone who was tough and Marilyn Badillo. And listen, do not blame Badillo for quitting. She did quit, straight up. But that was a good call. I had said right before that round, corner should pull her out. She wasn't necessarily getting seriously hurt or anything, but she was just taking so much punishment and was not having any success against Fundora. Gabriela Fundora made it clear she's likely to move up now. She's in there with an undefeated challenger and just had no problem. She is so strong and so fast. Truly one of the best fighters in the women's division right now. I like to see her go up to 115. There's nobody really at 115 that is a big name or a world class, sure, but pound for pound fighter for her to challenge. So I think that she could get some titles there and just become a multi-division world champion instead of just staying at flyweight forever. She's big. She can move up for sure. Yeah, hell of a fighter, super entertaining to watch, great personality as well. And yeah, she's going to have a very good career. She's only, I think, 23. So, I mean, she's got a good 10, 15 years ahead of her if she stays for that long. And it's just crazy. And yeah, so we've got a really, really good career cooking for her. She's had a tremendous start so far. Co-main event, this was the big talking point, to be honest. Charles Conwell lost to Jorge Garcia Perez. Big upset. Great fight. Very competitive. If you had Charles Conwell winning that fight, I would not argue with you. It was so close. It was a 115-113 either way kind of fight. Garcia did get the win, and I think that he kind of did deserve it. I was between giving it to Garcia 115-113 or 114-114, a draw. I do think that Garcia deserved the win more. I think that he was just more effective, seemed to honestly be the bigger puncher, and it was very clear that Charles Conwell was frustrated. We know this was a bigger test for Conwell, but everyone still expected him to win. I think he didn't look awful. I just think they kind of underestimated the guy. Didn't have the best game plan. He was visibly frustrated with being the smaller guy in there and not being able to get his stuff going. And even Garcia didn't look like his game plan was the most effective either, but he was just being, landing bigger shots. That's all it really was. If you actually look at the stats throughout the fight, Conwell was landing more while throwing about the same. So he was the more accurate, but Garcia was the bigger puncher, and that got him the win. Not mad at that. Garcia's been on a hell of a run recently. He's got some good fights ahead of him at 154. I don't think he's top 10, and I'll tell you this right now. he is going to get a good opportunity. I would not be surprised in the slightest if a world champion says, yeah, I'll fight you. Because they look at him and they say, yeah, you're good. You'll be a tough challenge. But I know that you're not going to be as tough as that guy because people have beaten you before. And even though you beat Charles Conwell, you're not invincible. So he's going to likely get a really good opportunity in his next fight against someone very much at the top who doesn't want to take another top fight. We'll see. It's a good opportunity for him. I'm not sure who that'll be. As for Charles Conwell, he doesn't go all the way back down to the totem pole. It does suck just because people have been saying, oh, man, you got to step up. You got to step up. And then he does, and he comes up short. First loss of his career. But I think that he's still got lots of room to grow. I don't think he's too old. It's not the end of his career. He can still fight for a world title someday, but you're going to have to go back down the levels again and then get yourself back up to a big fight when he was already very avoided. So, yeah, that sucks for him. Tristan Kalkruth had a really close fight with Felix Valera. I do think that he ended up edging the decision, but some of those rounds were very close. I know this was heavyweight when he wasn't expecting it to be, but he's got to change some things up in his camp. He's had one too many kind of questionable performances, and cruiserweight is a tough division. He talks about wanting to fight Zurdo Ramirez. You can't fight Zurdo looking like that. Ruslan Abdullayev goes the distance. For the first time in his career, it's only his second fight. Very tough opponent in the Philippine Gino Rodrigo. They go all 8 rounds, and he's already got a pro title after just 2 fights, which is tremendous. Joel Iriarte also got a pro title with a first-round knockout, his first 8-rounder as well. Those 2 prospects are honestly maybe Golden Boy's best hopes for, in terms of just looking at their prospects. Ruslan Abdullayev is very, very good, and Joel Iriarte is super fun to watch. I have very high hopes for both of them, and I'm curious how fast they're going to fast-track Abdullayev. Very good amateur, and he's already got a pro title and being in 8 rounders after 2 fights. That's nuts. We could see him fighting for a pro title before he hits 10-0, honestly. It's nuts. And Joel Iriarte, maybe not as fast. He's already 7-0 with 7 knockouts. I don't think he's ever been out of the second round. They got to find him somebody that can go rounds with him, because as much fun as it is, to see this great power, we do need to see him, get tested and go longer than 6 minutes. Joshua Edwards had his pro debut, second round knockout, looked great. New heavyweight American hope from the Olympics. Interesting that Golden Boy's going the heavyweight route. They haven't had a heavyweight in a while, so that's good to see. Alexander Gvozdyk was randomly on this card, fighting a journeyman. I think he was like 9-7, and he stopped him in the 3rd round, as he should have. That was such a weird fight for him to be in, but I mean, he's still a top guy at light heavyweight. Maybe he's not top 10 anymore, but he's got plenty to give. He's got plenty of big fights to take part in and fun fights. I guess it was just like a fight to get the ring rust off, but it was odd. I hope this isn't what his career is now, because he's still not at a bad level at all. Dallas Calliope had a great first-round knockout. Jorge Chavez went 8 rounds, looked very good. It was just a really, really entertaining card in California. I enjoyed it a lot. Now let's move over to PFL. The World Tournament, we had middleweights and lightweights, and it was very interesting. So the main event, which I was very excited for, Impa Kasanganay and Fabian Edwards, upset. Fabian Edwards looked really good. First round just kind of held Impa up against the fence and wouldn't let him get anything going. And then second round hurts him, drops him, and stops him. Very, very surprising. I know that Impa, really, if you look at his last 2024, I think he had 4 or 5 fights and lost 2 of them. I know he got stopped in the championship, and then he gets stopped again tonight, which was rough to see. I am a fan of his. I think he's cool. But Fabian Edwards, he's carrying on the Edwards family hope after Leon Edwards has had a rough time. I didn't know that they were brothers until on Friday, and I realized he was in this course. I guess that makes sense. But I thought he looked really good. He's going to be advancing in the tournament. So Fabian Edwards is going to be moving on to face Josh Silveira, who had a really good win over Mike Shipman over 3 rounds. Very good decision. Got 29-28 on all 3 scorecards. That was a good fight. As for the other side of the bracket, next it's going to be Dalton Rasta versus Aaron Jeffrey. Dalton Rasta and Sadou Besai was a fight that everyone was really looking forward to on this card. Rasta completely dominated him. I think that was meant to be an upset, and he submitted him. Really interesting stuff. Aaron Jeffrey had a close fight, but only deserved the decision in. So they're going to be fighting next round. So middleweight's looking pretty interesting. As for lightweight, Gadzi Rabadanov, I'm feeling pretty confident he's going to end up winning this whole tournament. Mark Diakis, he was in the co-main event, finished him in 30 seconds. It was nuts. Really, really good fighter. just a Russian powerhouse. And, he won the 2024 championship, and I don't think anything's stopping him from going again this time. He's going to be with J.J. Wilson, who had a TKO win over Mads Burnell. He looked good as well. And then on the other side of the bracket, it is going to be Brent Primus versus Alfie Davis. Alfie Davis had a first-round TKO over Clay Collard. Looked great. And then Brent Primus had a third-round submission. So some good finishes on that card. The lightweight division is looking pretty interesting. We'll see how it goes on in June, but I'm really enjoying PFL so far. And we got one more first round. The heavyweights and the light heavyweights are going to be on May 1st, so that should be good. So we don't have any PFL next week, but week after that we're back with what's sure to be a big card. BKFC was in Omaha on Friday night. Some fun fights on there. They had like 4 decisions in a row, and they just weren't very good fights. That really slowed down the card. And then the last few fights were all like first or second round knockouts. Bryce Henry stopped Derek Finley in the second round. It was weird. Finley just didn't come to fight. Kind of disappointing. Marcus Edwards ran through Dakota Cochrane. It was crazy. Like dropped him like 3 times, big time, just as soon as they got in there. I love seeing that kind of stuff in bare knuckle. I'm not there to watch a technical fight. I'm in there to see some knockouts, and we got that in the second half of the card. So decent fight card there, but not really too much to say. Really good card in Italy next week. I hate that the main event got changed, but you're going to have a rocky story there. UFC Fight Pass put on a card with Sadruddin Akhmedov versus Elias Espadas. Akhmedov, I mean, man, that was weird. It was a draw, and I was just not watching it closely enough. That was on at the same time as the Charles Conwell Jorge Garcia Perez fight. I was much more focused on that, and pretty much all that I saw from this fight was Akhmedov. I thought he was winning, like big time. And then I go to the decision, and they're saying, oh, yeah, it could be close. And then it's a draw. And I was like, what? So one that they could definitely run back. From what I could see, it didn't look like it was a bad fight. I just kind of thought that Akhmedov was winning, but I guess I was wrong. Umar Dzimbekov looked phenomenal in that co-main event. Knocked out Sonny McEwen in 1 round. That was great. Also, I want to shout out Aiden Palma on the undercard, who was in an undefeated versus undefeated fight with Alfredo Castro Villafuerte. He had a great 3rd-round knockout in his fight. So some pretty good fights. They announced their next card, which is going to be it's going to be May 17th, I think back at the same resort casino they were at, and that will be Sergey Boachuk versus Michael Fox, I think, is that right? Should be an okay card. Oh, actually, no, it's a great card. Should be an okay fight. I think it's a weird fight that they're putting Boachuk in that fight. I feel like he should be fighting in a tougher fight. But anyways, Omar Trinidad is in the co-main event. Very good fighter at featherweight. He's soon to be getting a world title shot. WBO 115 champion Mizuki Hiruta is on that card. Lupita Medina, who's also top 10 rated, is on that card. Really good fight card they're putting together there. 360's got a decent stable, I realized when they were announcing that in the ring. And yeah, so that's sure to be a good one on May 17th, and I look forward to that because this card was not their biggest card by any metric, and I'm glad they're putting together a mini super card. I also want to say that Sergey Kovalev had his retirement fight. I kind of forgot this was happening. He's fought this guy called Man. I don't know what his first name was. I think I heard it was like Arturo, if that's right. I'm not sure, but he stopped him in the 7th round. I wasn't able to catch the fight. I may watch it later. But you know what? He called it quits after, which I think is smart. Win or lose, he should have finished, but he got to win. He got to end his fight on a win, and it seemed to be a pretty good win, a brutal knockout, I heard. I didn't see it. But yeah, so that's good for him. Finishes his career on a good note and sail off into the sunset. Also, there was obviously the Grand Prix ended. I saw the heavyweight card was today. It's some interesting fights. The big knockout I saw was that, I think it was, are they doing the middleweights? Yeah, I think it was the middleweight division, or was it the welterweight? I don't want to mess it up, but it was the second day, whoever was there, and it was a big knockout. It was Alan Ezekiel Dutra knocked out Krzysztof Basil Dua, which was a big upset, I thought. I mean, I'm not too familiar with Dutra, but Basil Dua is like a matchroom prospect. I didn't know he was in the tournament, and he got knocked out big time, so that's pretty crazy for him. Yeah. So obviously he's going to advance to the next round, and this was in super lightweight. That's right. It was the 140 division. So I think it's 126, 140, and then I don't want to say the wrong division, but is it? It's middleweight. Okay, so it's 126, 140, 160, and heavyweight. Good divisions. And so I've heard it's some pretty good fights. Again, it's just too many fights to watch in one weekend. It's too many. 64 fights across these 4 cards. I mean, I look at their streams. The streams were like 8.5 hours long. I don't have the time to do that when you got all these other fight cards as well with like real big fights on it. I definitely want to tune into the tournament later on. Probably once it gets down to like 8 men each division, I'll watch then. Maybe even the 16, but I doubt it. Yeah, it's just too much to watch right now. And then there was also a card of the Career Royale. I heard Kevin Hayler-Brown went the distance. I heard that Lanier Perro didn't look great, which is not good for Matchrooms. They're just promoted him, but I didn't see them post anything about that. So that should tell you. But I didn't check out that card, but it seems like it was kind of decent. Okay, moving on from there. Talked about that a lot. It's going to be a longer episode. Let's get into some news, and I'll try and go through this quickly. So we talked about Shakur at the top of the episode. Apparently, he has now left Matchroom already and is signed with Lou DiBella. This is very surprising. We did hear that it was only a 2-fight deal with Eddie Hearn. I guess that's already been filled up because the first fight didn't end up happening. It's meant to be October 12th on that Beterbiev Bivol card. Didn't end up going through, so they had him on the Beterbiev Bivol 2. I thought that he was still with Eddie Hearn. I don't know if he got out of it early or if this is even legit, but we're hearing he's now signed with Lou DiBella, which on one hand I think is a bad idea because I think that Shakur can benefit from having a big guy to shout his name from the rooftops, and Eddie Hearn is probably the best promoter in the business. He's got a good relationship with His Excellency. He can get him big fights, big paydays. But if Shakur feels like he can get that somewhere else and he can get it with Lou DiBella, then sure. It is a little bit surprising because I feel like DiBella is not one of the top promoters. But Shakur is a guy that kind of doesn't seem like he wants to do the whole promoter thing, at least be like tied down to a promoter. He's going to be fighting on Ring Magazine, which you don't really need a promoter to do with Turkey. But yeah, so that was a little bit surprising to me. We'll see if it actually is real. But like I said, Shakur, he's already a big name, and everybody already knows how good he is. It's not like he needs the world to tell everybody, to tell the world how good he is. Like this is what Eddie Hearn had to do with Boots. Boots was, respected as good, but now everyone's, Boots is like a superstar because of Eddie Hearn. Shakur is already a superstar. He doesn't need Eddie Hearn. He doesn't need a promoter. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it seems like Matchroom is losing both him and Berlanga, which are both going to be fighting on a big card in New York City. This one hurts. Dricus du Plessis is reportedly injured and is out of the Khamzat Chimaev fight, which was likely going to be at the main event for UFC 317 International Fight Week. This really sucks for UFC. They're already having some troubles getting together a good main event, a good fight. We know they wanted to do potentially Islam versus Ilya, and they was like, I guess that we can't do that super fight, but DDP Khamzat is still a terrific fight. That's not going to happen now. Pantoja Kara France is still possible to do the main event. They may try and convince Islam to do a fight. They may even do Ilya versus Charles in the main event. If that's going to happen, Ilya is saying he wants to wait until, he fights Islam to fight again, which I think is a bad idea. We'll see if he actually does that. Part of me thinks he's just talking to talk. I hope he's just talking because I want to see him fight before then because it could be for a while. I really wouldn't be mad if they did Charles versus Ilya in the main event for a pay-per-view. That is such a good and big fight. I want to see that more than I want to see Alexandre Pantoja versus Kai Kara France. And you can do that in the co-main event. We'll see what they do because now they're really scrambling to find something for 317. I need a UFC Atlanta main event announcement, which we're hearing. It sounded like it may be Kamaru Usman, Joaquin Buckley. Kamaru Usman hasn't fought in almost like 2 years. I think Joaquin Buckley is a great fight for him to come back against. Those guys have talked a lot. I think that would do very well as the main event in Atlanta. I hope it is because I'm going to go to that one. And, I want to see a big, great fight there. And they haven't announced really any fights for it. And it's just about a little bit under 2 months away. So they should be announcing that soon. But yeah, I hope we get a good fight like that. Vicente Luque versus Kevin Holland has been announced for UFC 316. I hope that Kevin Holland can win and get back into the rankings, man. He really is going to fight 6 times this year. This is going to be his 3rd fight in 2025. So he's already on track, fighting 3 times in the first half of the year. Really cool stuff. And yeah, I hope that he, at the very least, I hope he doesn't get injured, or beat up too bad and can still do his 6 fights a year because I think that's awesome if he's able to do that. Matchroom have signed the British heavyweight prospect in Leo Atang, and it's interesting. This guy was in the Olympics. I haven't heard about him too much. I didn't really follow the Olympics, but he is. They're kind of booking him, kind of making him seem like he's going to be the next AJ. That's what they're selling him as, which I think is very interesting. We'll see if how far they push that narrative, but just even like their little promo they put out, it's him watching Anthony Joshua versus Klitschko, saying, "Oh wow, just like it changed my life" or whatever, and it's like, dang, like. this generation we've been seeing for a while is now the inspiration for the next generation. And I bet they're going to give him a pretty good push. Matchroom's been doing very well with their Olympian pushes with Pat Brown and Omari Jones. Terry Moana getting a good push. Haven't seen too much with Nishant Dev. Haven't seen him since January. Don't know where he's at. But, yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with this guy. I think they said he's going to have his pro debut in July on whatever their UK show is there. They did announce a fantastic show for June 21st, which you knew was happening, but man, is it good. It's going to be Galalia 5 versus Francisco Rodriguez. Really good fight at 112. They're saying they're going to try and get the Kenshiro Taraji fight for UFI should he come through this for the WBC interim flyweight title. That's going to be great, but co-main event, man. Shabazz Masood, Peter McGrail at 122. Fight we've all been talking about for a while. Actually, no. But just since they both fought recently, we've been saying, hey, this makes sense. And it's just all the stars have aligned. And Matchroom's like, yeah, we didn't think about this, but it's a great fight. So it seems like that's what's going to be next. That's a fantastic 50-50 fight. I would probably favor Shabazz Masood in that one. It'll be for the IBO title at Super Bantamweight. And the winner of that, man, you can really start to talk about legitimate world titles. Really, really love that fight. Kona Walker versus Liam Taylor on that as well. I mean, he's going to open up the card, which is nuts, having Kona Walker as the first fight. It's really is such a stacked card because Pat Brown is on that as well. Really excited to see him come back. You've also got Ibrahim Suleiman, great prospect. You got Hamza Udin, another good one. And Aaron Bowen, I believe, is on that as well. So really good card they've got lined up for Birmingham in June. Very excited for that one. Kevin Saggio is going to be facing Habib Ahmed on May 10th, not Osles Iglesias. This is in Equatorial Guinea. I know that Suleiman Sissoko is fighting on that in like an eliminator. So I think that they're putting together actually a pretty interesting card. But yeah, really weird that Saggio is out of that Iglesias fight. We were hearing that was going to be for the IBF eliminator. He's now backed out of it, it seems, and is going to fight Habib Ahmed, who I'm not really familiar with. Such a weird decision because he's close to getting a world title shot, and they keep on falling through for whatever reason. I don't know why he's taking this fight, especially when we were hearing that fight was ongoing with negotiations, and then they just announced that he's got a new fight. We didn't hear, negotiations are off. We just hear he's got a new fight. It doesn't seem like it's going to be just like a run out either. He's just taking like another like 10-round fight. So odd. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with him. And that sucks because I want to see him and Iglesias fight. We're hearing that Billy's going to have a press conference to announce his next fight on, I think it's Wednesday, I want to say. So we're going to see what they do with him there. Honestly, they may be pulling in Billy versus Iglesias. I doubt they are. It could be in Billy versus Eric Bazinian at this point, just to get him a good fight, but who knows. Adam Azim versus Steve Claggett could be next. I just saw that's what Boxer's trying to set up for him. I think that's an okay fight. It is a little bit like, okay, how many of these gatekeeper type guys are we going to put him in with? He just fought Ohara Davies, then Sergey Lipinets. Good names, but I want to see him tested. I did see Ben Jalom talking to Dalton Smith after the fight today. Probably just talking about, when are we going to get that fight going? And Adam Azim even mentioned the Dalton Smith fight. You know, he said, he was like, Dalton looked good. Congrats, good win. We're going to meet soon. It's like, how long are they going to wait to build that fight up? I think they're waiting until Dalton gets the WBC title. I don't know. Yeah, it's very frustrating what's going on with Adam Azim right now. Okay, we've got the rules for Misfits Survivor Tag. This sounds really interesting. They obviously have done this like 2 years ago at this point. But it sounds like it's going to be a lot better. So this is going to be heavyweight this time around, which is sure to be carnage. It'll be May 16th on that big card. So it's every man for themselves, of course. It says 2 tags are optional, but if you tag the second time, you'll lose a point. That's odd. I think it means that you're allowed to tag once. If you do tag the second time, like you can, but you're going to lose a point. Seems there's going to be some extra point system. And then you get eliminated through a knockdown or knockout, referee stoppage, corner stoppage, or refusal to tag in. So essentially, if you get knocked down, I think you're out of the Survivor Tag, which makes sense, I guess, to try and push people out because you can't have it going on forever. And then, it's set for 5 rounds in total. Going into round 4, there must be only 3 participants. So at the end of round 3, there will be a mandatory elimination for the participants with the least cumulative points. So whoever, tagged out the most amount of times or was losing the round, they get dropped if nobody's been knocked down. And then going into the round 5, there must only be 2 guys. So they're going to do the same thing. So I think that sounds really interesting. I like going into the last round, there's only 2 fighters left. So when you get to the scorecards, if they need them, which I'm guessing you will because you don't have enough time to get knocked out really because you're not in there the whole fight, you get more extra rest. So when you go into that last round, it's going to be them saying, all right, well, you're done. We only have two guys. It's going to be a simple decision. Because last time, the point systems just made no sense. It was like, what is going on? There was the highest number of points, totally 100 or something. It was just so weird. So I guess that they're trying to streamline it and make it more simple. I'm not really sure. We'll see what they do there. Reito Tsutsumi has been signed as an ambassador for the Ring. Yeah, so this is a big Japanese prospect who's turning pro. He's going to make his pro debut on the Ring magazine card on May 2nd. That's pretty cool, and he's now signed with Turkey. So, interesting that Turkey's signing all these Ring ambassadors. I don't think that means that they're exclusive to fighting on Ring magazine cards. I think it's that they promote the brand. Same thing that Inoue does with Real Season. He hasn't fought on a Real Season card yet, but he does have it on his shorts and stuff. So I think that's the same. Kermel Moten will return versus Renny Viamonte, who's 4-1-1 on May 31st on the Caleb Plant Jermall Charlo card. I hope he's televised. I don't know if he will be, but I really do hope that he is, because we know we're going to get a pretty good fight between Yoeli Hernandez and Tyrone Davis on that card, which will be the third and only extra fight on that card. So, that sucks, but I really want to see all of Kermel's fights. I would like him to be a little bit more active, but he only really appears on big cards, it seems. And, people are saying, he needs to step up and fight better guys. But this is only his 8th fight, I think. He's developing really well. So I think he's got a few more fights to get through. If he's going to be fighting guys like this, I want him to fight every month, or at least every other month. Not fight, just 4 times a year. And then lastly, I just think that's interesting. I think that OTX may be looking to make Katz versus Bakary Samake. We know Katz has supposedly been mandatory for the WBC silver title at 154 pounds. Bakary Samake fought Rourke Knapp for it in front of 40,000 people apparently on Friday. Didn't know anything about that, but Overtime Boxing was kind of posting about it, saying they were there, saying, could he fight Katz? So Katz obviously fights on May 9th in Houston, so once he likely gets through that, we could see them make that fight for the WBC silver title, and that could be fun. Both guys are undefeated. Seem like they're both big punchers, and so that's all I've got for today. Big episode, a lot to talk about, some great fights this weekend. And obviously we had that big news with the Paul Chavez card and the Stevenson Zepeda card. And by the way, that is the main event. We're hearing Mike Coppinger said that Berlanga Sheeraz is probably going to be the co-main. From the announcement, it seems like that could be the main event, which I think is a mistake. So glad that Shakur is headlining against Zepeda. But yeah, a lot of great stuff. We got Eubank Ben coming up next Saturday. That's going to be a crazy fight week this week. So thank you so much for listening, and I will see you on probably Tuesday. Thanks for listening. Peace out.